Hello and welcome to the Dungeon Masters Guild House. This is a weekly podcast where I sit down with people all across the DM's Guild space and just chat, really, just generally have a chit chat, find out how things are going on. And this week I'm joined by Liam Murray. Thank you so much for taking some time to have a chit chat.
Thank you for having me.
How are we doing today?
I'm pretty good. You know, just didn't really do much. I'm not back to college or anything yet, so I just been relaxing all day.
Yeah, no, big mood. I can relate with that one.
I mean, I could be doing some writing, but I've kind of just finished all my projects recently, and I'm not that motivated to start a new one yet. So
yeah, it's always interesting. I think there's certain projects when I hit the end of them where I'm like, good, I need a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But there's always those projects that you have that you begin to start like visualizing halfway through the ending of another one.
Yeah.
It's like the moment this one's out the door, you're already like running and having the next one. So I'm currently in that space of just like having like train tracks in front of me, project one after another.
That's very nice. That is when you don't have to really like think too hard about it and you just do it. That's great.
But I guess so. Speaking of projects, then, for the people listening, what sort of things might they know you for?
So I'm pretty new to the whole Dungeon Master Guild scene. What month is it now? It's September. I only really started writing, I've been a DM for like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
I've kind of been a forever DM because I was the one who was like, oh, let's play D&D, and then that means I had to learn all the rules and everything. So I've been DMing for 6 years, but I started writing properly. It was like during the second month of like lockdown here in Ireland. So that was like January, February, March, April. That was like May. I was getting ready for Ghost. I'm running me and my friends. We just finished up a Curse of Strahd campaign, which was great. And we were like trying to decide what to do. And I was like, Ghost of Saltmarsh looks cool. So I got the book and I like read through it and I came up with this. I don't know, out of nowhere, I just had this great idea for this murder mystery adventure. And I was like, oh, this will be cool. I should write this properly. And I did it all out. And then I was like, I can't remember who, but somebody mentioned it to me. They're like, oh, you should put that up on the DMsGuild. And I was like, idea. And then I properly formatted it, but not properly because it was my first time doing it. And but yeah, I did out that, and I've only got 3 right now. But when the time this goes online, I'll have 4 up.
Ooh, exciting.
My most recent one is just finishing editing, and then it'll be up. But yeah.
So what was it? So the Saltmarsh murder mystery, that was it Murder on the Primewater Pleasure?
Yes, Murder on the Primewater Pleasure. One of the NPCs in Ghost of Saltmarsh is he's a very he likes to throw parties. So I was just like, he should have a cruise ship. What could happen on a cruise ship? Yeah. Oh, a murder!
I must admit, I don't know what it is, but murder mysteries so again, I've written a murder mystery myself, and they seem to do quite well on the DMsGuild. I think everyone just they like a murder mystery. So I guess I'm curious then. So in your design of this then, so you had your kind of setting. You okay, well, taking the Ghost of Saltmarsh's inspiration, there is this character who should have, I was about to call it a pleasure boat. But, we'll just call it the pleasure boat. But what was the kind of some of the things about that? Like what did you take with this sort of I guess what's the word? This prompt to turn it into a murder mystery? What were some of the things you tried to throw in there?
Okay, slight spoilers for Ghost of Saltmarsh.
Oh yeah, true. I mean, in fairness, now that most people are probably in Rime of the Frost Maiden, I think.
Yeah. Okay, not slight, pretty major spoilers. Spoilers for that. But there's in the Ghost of Saltmarsh, there's this group called the Scarlet Brotherhood, and I don't know that much about the whole history of D&D and everything, but I know they have been around for a while. And the Scarlet Brotherhood is this secret organization, and they're working against the realm and all the good people there. But there really isn't that much given in the book about it. they give you a bit of history about it. They give you one of the like key agents. His name is Scaran Wavechaser, and yeah, very thematic for Ghost of Saltmarsh. But they kind of just give you that. They just give you him, and it's like figure it out yourself. And I was trying to come up with some way to fit him into the story, and I was like, he could murder someone. And I was like, that could be fun.
Yeah.
And we're ready to do that, but on a boat. I thought it was to like, when I was designing the murder mystery, I was trying to come up with a way to like keep them all together. Like if you have it in a mansion, they can just leave.
Yeah.
But if you have them on a boat out in sea, then they kind of have to stay there and figure it out. Which is kind of useful when you're designing things that people don't just run away from.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past some adventuring party to just jump off the boat.
Yeah, especially in Saltmarsh. If a load of them are like merfolk or whatever, they could just be like, "Nah, fuck this, I'm out," and jump and swim away.
I must say, so I think I'm trying to think of where else I've heard of the Scarlet Brotherhood, but from what I know about Saltmarsh, it used to be set in it was a Greyhawk. And then they with the sort of new Ghost of Saltmarsh, but they were trying to reset it within the Forgotten Realms ish.
Yeah, so they kind of wrote it, or the book is kind of like there's like 7 different adventures. It's very much like Tales of the Yawning Portal, like that, but they do a bit better of a job at telling you how to fit them together to form a proper narrative. And with every adventure, they're like, oh, this is where it could happen in the Forgotten Realms, or this is where it could happen in Eberron, or this is where it could happen in Greyhawk. But I think the DMsGuild creators aren't actually allowed to use Greyhawk.
No, you're not allowed to speak about the Forbidden Zone.
Okay, yeah. So it's handy that it's like non-specific setting.
That's the curious thing about the DMsGuild when it comes to like settings. It's normally a case of we have to wait for new setting guides. For things to come around, and I think going off the recent is it not D&D Live or the basically new set? I think they've mentioned we have some more setting books down the line.
Oh,
so no, so apparently, not 3 completely new setting books, but like 3 books based on like existing settings.
That would be very cool.
So yeah, I think people are speculating like wild. They're saying for Spelljammer, which is their sort of like the spacefaring one, which I would be all for, but. I'm curious then. So was this murder mystery then the one that you kind of started with? Was it something that you kind of wrote from the ground up, or was this kind of like an adventure that you'd already run for your like Saltmarsh campaign? Or
yeah, no. So it was just so I've run a few proper campaigns, but usually I don't have that much time to like get ready for them. It's just like, oh, we're playing or Curse of Strahd in like a week, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta read through that book.
Yeah.
But because of lockdown and everything, me and my friends, we couldn't play, so I had like 4 months to get ready for the campaign. So I got the book, took my time reading through it, and then I was like, one of the other things about Ghost of Saltmarsh is there's no proper big bad evil guy. No. So I came up with my own guy, and then I was just trying to come up with extra quests, and I was just like, yeah, we'll do this murder mystery. And so I haven't actually run it for my proper players yet. I've like play tested it with some other people that I know, but well, actually we started the first session of it like last week.
So, so this is a very timely conversation.
Yeah. They got to like the first murder, so it's pretty exciting.
It's not just a murder mystery; it's a multiple murder mystery.
Yeah, there's a few murders. it would be kind of boring if there's just one. But they can stop murders. That's the thing.
Oh, they put them out if they get. No, interesting. So I guess my big question is because one of the things that I really I guess I struggled with in writing my own murder mystery adventure is how do you provide that information to like another DM? Like I thought for a long time I kind of struggled with the idea of like doing like a timeline of events of like how things would flow, but because my adventure had the added complication because I made it so it was based on Waterdeep Dragon Heist. So it was Bowler's Guide to Getting Murdered.
Nice.
And so because it was based in Waterdeep, I had 4 different murderers who could kind of fit in with each season. So it kind of meant that like if I were to do a timeline of events, it would then sort of be there would have to then be 4 of them. So I'm just curious about like how you sort of managed to sort of put that information across.
Yeah. So I looked at some of the other murder mysteries because like I obviously knew, or well I didn't. I had a good idea of how I wanted it to play out in my campaign. But to like take my random bunch of scribbled notes and put that in a like proper laid out format that people could read was quite a challenge. So I went on and I got like, I think it was called Murder on in Moonvale Manor or something.
Okay.
And I also had a look through Murder on the Eberron Express. Have you seen that one? That one was quite good. Very interesting what they did, but I didn't do it that way. But anyway, but what I did was I wrote out the main thing in the murder mystery was I wanted there to be a lot of like interrogating NPCs. So I wrote out proper kind of like very detailed descriptions for each NPC, and I tried to give them each a motivation for why they'd want to kill the person, a means for how they could kill the person, and then a reason to be nervous, which is like if they were on the boat and there was this murder. And they realized they were being investigated. They had like a secret. Yeah, I probably should have called it a secret. That was probably a better word. But,
I like that. Hindsight is but no, it kind of makes sense because it's not. It's calling it nervousness kind of implies that like it's not a guilt. It's just their natural reaction to being suspected. Whereas a secret is always like, that they're actively working to hide something or against
exactly. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Thanks, Matt. But yeah, anyway, so I did out these NPC profiles, and then I wrote out the scene for the first murder. The first murder is kind of pretty set in stone because like if that doesn't really happen, then nothing else is gonna happen, and it's just not an adventure. But then the second murder, I had a time frame for when it could happen, and they could prevent it if they find the murderer before the second murder. Or well, actually, so technically there's 3 murders. Yeah. Have you looked through it?
So I like I said. So I always try my best to kind of do my research, and I've kind of like obviously I haven't had the time since we chatted to run the adventure.
Yeah.
So again, I guess it's balancing like obviously you always want a solid starting point that could make sense to you, but yeah, once you begin having in the potential like a branching path of like obviously because like if they do stop the adventure before the second murder, then it's probably very hard for the third one to even come into play.
Yeah, like if they find the murderer before he kills the third person, that's completely fine. It's just, they saved that life, and that's great. I mean, sure, all of that stuff that was written is kind of going to be wasted, but like, I mean, that doesn't really matter.
I mean, as long as people have fun.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so the first murder is set in stone. Should I get into spoilers for it, or
it's entirely up to you. Again, obviously for the people listening and stuff like that. I think if I remember, is it a I believe you have it available in the store as a pay what you want.
Yeah, it's pay what you want, so you can go check it out for free if you want.
So, and obviously there'll be there'll be a link to your DMsGuild profile in the bottom, cool. As well as again as a link to your newest product. Obviously, which we can chat about in a moment. But
nice.
But I guess the the kind of like build like I'm guessing. So was the intention that with each each following murder, I was going to cannot say the word to say, but with was the intention to sort of like bump up the number of clues to kind of narrow down?
Exactly. Yeah. So well, yes and no. The first murder was, and some people might say this is a bit far fetched, but in Scarin's like character portrait thing or profile, it goes in how he's like so dedicated to the Scarlet Brotherhood and he would like literally die for them. That's one thing about him, and then another thing is that his flaw is that he's really arrogant. He's like, "Oh, I'm a genius. Whatever I do is going to work." Yeah. So he set up this murder, and there's a priest on board the ship that can cast Revivify, and he's like, "Oh, I want him to resurrect me." So first what he does is he casts darkness, and I changed his his stat block from the actual book
Mhm.
to make him a bit more fun, because they go into about how he's like this amazing assassin, but he's just got like a regular like assassin or like thief stat block or something
Yeah.
like that. But he kills himself under the cover of a darkness spell, and then the priest resurrects him, and then everyone's like, oh, okay, so there was no murder. But then, like a minute later, the priest dies from food poisoning, and Scarron poisoned him with this poison. I don't know if it's an actual real poison. I just made it up.
Yeah.
And it's like a slow-acting one, and he dies. And
So, funny enough, there's some really interesting poisons. I will say, so just forgive me for the small tangent. Just because I was writing about it, there's one called I forget what it's called exactly, but I think it's called like Midnight's Bane or something like that. That it's a poison that's lethal, but it only becomes lethal at midnight.
Oh.
It's the poison they use in the Waterdeep Dragon Heist, but it's also in the back of like the DMG with all the other poisons and whatnot. So yeah, you drink it, you're fine. Hits midnight, dead.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have put that in.
No, but that's another thing as well. It's like when it comes to like like adjusting stat blocks or just creating magical items that like fit a niche. It's like I think it's one of the kind of fun parts of, because you're like, it would be really cool if there was this item or this type of poison for this plot point.
Exactly.
And you just like, yeah, I just make that. I think one of the fun things I remember making is there was in one of my other adventures, it's about trying to find it like a astronomer's what do astronomers, what's it, the like observatorium or observatory. Yeah, there you go. I should know this. But it's buried under a lot of sand. So I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to have like a magic shovel that acts like a bag of holding, but for sand.
Ooh.
And that's literally kind of what I did. I was like, you know what, let's see if we can make and the problem part with that is every time I kept showing it to people were like, this is really like, people could really break this by just having a shovel that just like push a button and just all this dirt. Balancing it was a bit of a trick.
That is true. Whenever you're like making new things, you got to be really conscious. Like whenever I make a new feature or something, I'm like, okay, this would work great, but then there's going to be some people that are like, oh, how do I break the game with this?
Yeah. That's was it? That's that sounds like their DM problem. But no, sorry. So you kind of saying before. So the just killed himself. Darkness, poison the priest.
So the reason he kills himself is to like throw off the scent. One thing when I was writing the adventure is Scarron is this other NPC called Anders Salmore. He's his butler. So it's kind of like, the cliche, the butler did it.
Yeah.
To kind of try and get away from that, I wanted to, like have him kill himself to throw the adventurers off the track. And because they were like, oh, if he is a murderer, why would he kill himself? But so he kills himself, and then Scarron, the priest, drops dead. And then they're like, oh, okay, so there's a proper murder here. And then they've got to figure out, they've got all these, there's a few clues, like the vial of poison he used. He had to like glue it to the underside of the table. And it's like close to like a certain number of NPCs, so it like narrows down the list. And then there's also just like who can cast a darkness spell, like so there's a load of clues that they can figure out just from that first murder. It would be very hard to narrow it down to Scarron just from the first murder.
You kind of want it like that, though, don't you?
Obviously,
you don't want the sort of people to be going to room like, oh, well, it's murdering Mike.
Exactly.
It's the guy with the bloody knife in the corner.
So the one way that they could narrow it down is Scarron has this like, cause he has this in his room. He's got like a lead box, and in the lead box is like another dagger, and it's in lead, so it can't be scryed. And there's also like the spell components for darkness. And stuff like that. So if they find that, then they narrow it down to him.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I tried to do was, because especially when you're writing, murder mysteries in D&D, it's like, oh, zone of truth, you can't do a murder mystery because it's like, zone of truth, are you the murderer?
Yeah.
So one of the things about them being like, the nobles of Saltmarsh,
Mhm.
because they all have these kind of things they would rather not tell people, they're going to object to being in a zone of truth.
Yeah.
Um, but then after the second murder, they're like, okay, right, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. No, I bet that's a really clever way. Again, just like by naturally having everyone suspicious or suspects, it does allow you that more controlled drip feed of information. Which it's yeah. And then I imagine by it all sort of comes together. I take it like there is a very big possibility of just him getting away. That's just
Every group I've run it through has found him, but I don't know if that's just me being like. I don't think I was too forward with the clues, I think it could be very easy for a DM to be like, "Do you look under the table?"
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you found the poison vial. Well done, guys. I kind of tried to just be like, "Where do you look?" And then if they say under the table, it's like, "Oh yeah, cool." But especially after the second murder, some of the clues are not obvious, but the list is very much narrowed down. But yeah, I'd say it very much varies group to group if he gets away or not.
Yeah. I suppose you can only hold the DMs and the party's hand so much. Sometimes they have to work it out for themselves. All right. Well then, I guess to pivot away from again, thank you for the deep dive of the murder on the Primal Earth Pleasure.
Perfect Halloween murder mystery, guys.
It's that time of year again. But I guess to talk, maybe a little bit more broadly about your adventure writing process as a whole. Is there a particular point or place that your ideas kind of stem from? Obviously, so with the your murder mystery, it very much stemmed from the source material. Has it kind of been the same for some of your other products, or?
Yeah, so after I wrote that one, as I said, it was kind of just a eureka moment of like, oh, this would be cool. That then I actually wrote down. I was like, because I put it out, and I was my whole idea was that if 10 people that are running Ghost of Saltmarsh see this and run it, that would be so epic. But then it had 1,000 downloads in a day, which it's pay what you want, so most of them were free downloads, but that's fine by me. And it was just like, whoa, 1,000 people could be running this. I should do another one. So my second adventure then was it's called Horrors Beneath Hopnir Asylum, which is once again from Ghost of Saltmarsh. There's an asylum in it's one of the towns. It's called can't remember the name now, but there's an asylum called Hopnir Asylum. And when I read through it, I was like, oh, I'd love more about that. But there's a page on it.
Okay.
And it's only a really brief time that the PCs actually stop there. And I thought, oh, an asylum, that would be so fun. So I was like, yeah, I'll expand on that. So that was very much from the source material. Then after that, I wrote a horror kind of adventure for this writing competition.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I kind of just sat around coming up with ideas for it. Looking through the monster manual and picking a monster to be the villain is a great way to get inspiration, I think. Because if you don't have a solid villain, I kind of feel like you're not going to have a great adventure.
I guess it depends, because again, especially for murder mysteries or horrors, the idea of being tracked down by a monster or whereas sometimes more exploration based things you can kind of get away with a little bit. But no, I do 100% agree with the just flicking through a monster manual. I think same with Volos or Mordecai's and Morty. Yeah, good old Morty. There are so many really interesting sometimes I look at it in case of DM envy of I've never run this creature before. I want an excuse, and the best way that I can do that is to either create an adventure or a unique encounter around them. But I do also agree. Yeah, a good number of my adventures have also kind of stemmed from the material of Saltmarsh or I like Waterdeep a lot. I do have a lot of Waterdeep stuff, but I guess because that's kind of the point of the DMs Guild. Like you have access to the IP. You might as well dip your toes in it a little bit, or see where you can kind of take it from there.
Yeah, I think that's like for just for like advertising. It's great to be able to like go on the Ghost of Saltmarsh Reddit or whatever and be like, yo, I made this adventure specifically for Ghost of Saltmarsh. You guys should check it out. Because some of the like bigger subreddits, like I don't know, it's like D&D Next or something, you like put up a post on that and then it's gone in like 2 seconds.
So is that kind of with the first day of sales? Is that what you kind of did? You threw it up on the Ghost of Saltmarsh Reddit and it kind of blew up a little bit?
Yeah, it was kind of surreal. I put it on the Ghost of Saltmarsh one, which is quite small compared to some of the other ones, and it got like, I don't know, 50 upvotes in like an hour, which was kind of insane. I know that's not much for other subreddits, but
as I say, it's trying to, again, you got to find that niche. It's a case of like there are these communities out there. And I'm sure the person who created the Ghost of Saltmarsh subreddit wasn't like, oh, I hope there's at least 2 other people who like it. It's like, no, there's a bunch of people out there who are probably running through a Ghost of Saltmarsh campaign right now. And again, great thing about one shots is they can fit in anywhere. Like there's nothing. The Prime Water Pleasure can pop by any dock and just instantly sort of get people on the adventure.
That's another thing I did. So I put it in the Ghost of Saltmarsh one, and then there's so many different D&D subreddits that it's kind of confusing to keep track of them. But like I'm playing through Storm King Thunder at the moment. And that one's very, it's very open, and there's loads of space to like put in stuff. So I went onto that Reddit and was like, "Yo, there's this murder mystery that can really take place anywhere." And then some of the people there were like, "Oh, this is really cool." And then I also put it on like, it's like Home Brewery or something. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but it's for like homebrew stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Home Brewery the website that kind of lets you create your own? Yeah.
And then there's a Reddit or a subreddit for it. Not so much for like support on the website, I think, but just people sharing their homebrew stuff.
Yeah.
And because it was pay what you want, I could put it up there and be like, yeah, it's free. So people were like, oh, this is class. And it was kind of that was the bigger subreddit I put it on. And that got like 800 upvotes, and I was just like, "What is going on?"
I think it's. I can imagine like for your first attempt dipping into like the the DMs Guild and publishing, that it's got to be a good sort of like confidence boost.
Yeah, it was like whoa, because people were like commenting and messaging me and just being like, "Wow, this is amazing! You shouldn't have put it for free." And I was like, thanks.
You told me this now?
Yeah, it's too late to change it, but it really was. It was just a big like, you're actually good at this. Good job.
I guess then again, I'm curious then. So from following that with some of your other products, what was kind of the incentive to kind of keep them all kind of pay what you want?
Just like, well, so I did the Murder on the Prime Water Pleasure, and that was pay what you want. The main reason for that, there were 2 main reasons. One, because it was my first product. I was like, if I'm selling this and it's my first thing, I don't know. I didn't really think people would pay for it, so I just put it for free. And then my second one, Horrors Beneath Hopnir Asylum, I just put like $2 because it was just an experiment to see how they would like sell differently. Like I'm a science student, so I wanted to. I was like, ooh, I wonder if I put, because like the average amount that people would actually buy it for was $2, like the Murder on the Prime Water Pleasure. So I was like, so if I set this one at $2, how will that affect the purchase rate? And it was actually a lot lower. Like the actual, if you take out all the free downloads, Hopnir Asylum is only at like it's less than half of Murder on the Prime Water Pleasure. But I also think that's because Murder on the Prime Water Pleasure, it's the murder mystery, and they sell quite well. But then my most recent one, the like Thorin Battle Axe's Guide to Adventure, or Tome of Adventure, I think it is. That was I had this idea to make a thing for brand new DMs, because when I started DMing, I was kind of like, where do I start? And I got the starter set, which was great. But I would have loved more stuff. But the thing is, like the player's handbook is like €50.
Yeah.
And if you're just, or I don't know how much it is in dollars, like whatever,
Yeah.
it's expensive enough.
People can do their own exchange rates. We're not here for
that. Yeah. I'm a science student, not a math student. But yeah, it's a bit expensive to get into. So I was like, it would be great if there's this really good, like free, kind of high quality product that kind of holds your hand a bit as you're going through you're like your first adventures, and that's kind of why I wanted to make it free, so it was accessible to like everyone.
It's again, yeah. No, I think it's when it comes to pricing on products, it feels like a minefield in like like how like there's a lot of people who rightfully say that you should adequately price your products what they're worth, and then they sort of go by the standard of like the like cents per page, and then there's always the I think of like do I want to maybe like undersell myself to get it in front of more people, or it's a difficult balance. And I've had it when you have times where you release a product and it, hypothetically speaking, maybe doesn't sell too well. It's like there was a case of like, well, what have I done? Is it the price point or is it the product? And it's all these factors that you can't really control. But
yeah, the thing is, like, if you put it for pay what you want, more people are going to download it, and then I suppose that kind of I don't know how exactly it equates to actually people coming back and buying it.
Yeah.
But I kind of felt that if more people get it in front of them, read through it, and like, oh, this is actually pretty good, I'm going to throw this guy a few euro.
Yeah. I'm curious, like, so in the numbers that you kind of have, just because I don't think I've never actually done any pay what you want title. What's kind of like the I guess ratio of like free downloads to?
Sorry, I think I just muted you.
Oh no! Would you like me to repeat my question?
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
I was just saying, like, for like a title that is like pay what you want, like in your experience, kind of what's the ratio of like just free downloads to purchases?
I can get it up for you now in just 2 seconds.
Dude, I love this. It's like real time science.
Yeah. That it was actually that was like one of the, not one of the main reasons, but it was like when I put Hopping Asylum for like an actual price, I was like really interested to see how it would go.
Yeah.
So I'll just get it for you here now.
Yeah, of course.
So the Murder on the Prime Water Pleasure has been out for about 3 months now. And the amount of downloads that it's gotten is okay, so the amount of people that have paid for it is 395.
Wow. Dude, coming up to gold.
Yeah. Wait, how much is gold? Like 500? 500,
yeah. Well, sorry, 501.
501, okay. And then, interestingly enough, the amount of people that have actually downloaded it is 3,800.
Okay, so roughly like
1 in 10.
Yeah, well, which yeah,
1 in 9,
isn't bad. And as you mentioned, the average price was roughly around $2.
Yes.
Interesting.
But that also is probably because I put down like the recommended pay what you want $2. I don't know if that probably does have a factor. Oh, and then this is interesting. The Sword and Battle Axe's Tome of Adventure, 97 downloads, only 3 or 4 off Silver Electrum.
101 is at Silver. I think it's 251 is Electrum.
Cool. So it's 97 like paid for it, and then the actual downloads is 1,200.
So it seems pretty consistent that it's like roughly 1 in 10.
Yeah, roughly.
Which isn't, again, it's interesting statistic. It's weird how that's naturally how the, I guess you could call it a curve. Just like
statistics isn't my strong point. I suppose, curve.
Welcome to the podcast where two people unqualified about statistics trying to talk about graphs. And Okay. Well, let's talk about stuff we do know a little bit better then.
Yes.
Well, just
that is interesting though. That is very interesting.
No, it is, and I think I know there's people who like on like Twitter and on the DMsGuild Discord and everything. They do like people eat up a good graph. Like you post a graph in like the economics and marketing chat, people go ravenous.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I've got this graph, or I've got.
Did you see that big survey that one person did? They're like,
I didn't. So I know that it was the survey asking a bunch of.
It was like 50 questions about are you a creator? When did you buy stuff? What do you buy? And it was really interesting. Some of the stuff they get back because. I feel like a lot of the big sellers on the DMsGuild are like, expanded monster manuals and new subclasses and stuff. But from this survey, it said that most people buy adventures. So it's just kind of interesting to see. But yeah,
it's curious, isn't it? It feels like again, this is pure speculation. I'm not qualified to speak about this, but. It seems like everyone can buy the sort of the if you look on like the best-selling things like the Monster Manual and stuff like that. I think a lot of those products are things that DMs can take and place into any campaign, whereas adventures, even though again, I guess this was like a relatively small sample size, I think.
But I think it was 500, which doesn't really do that much.
Yeah.
My calculator.
But it's a case of like, and then I think it's a case that if you add up all the people who are buying adventures, they're not buying every adventure. I think it's a case of like they would buy one or two adventures and stuff like that. Whereas it's with these larger products that you see on like the best-selling things, they do have a higher price point, so they stick around a little bit longer. Yeah. And I think generally they might have like a little slightly widespread appeal.
Yeah. And like with subclasses and stuff, it's like for adventures, it's kind of very much limited to DMs buying it, But a subclass, a DM could buy it, and then they could be like, "Yo, like 6 players, this is really cool. Go check this out."
I mean, it's also as well because, like, with subclasses, subclasses work for DMs as well because you can just make an NPC with these abilities and stuff like that. Again, it's the range. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if we were to come out and like if you had to look at like who's buying on the Dungeon Masters Guild, which now that I'm going to say it would make sense that it's mostly Dungeon Masters.
Yeah, when you put it like that, actually, yeah.
You know what? The name never clicked with me. We need a players
guild. The D&D guild. It's the Dungeon Masters Guild. Yeah.
No, we've cracked it. The case, like it's everyone knows the whole time.
No more surveys needed.
So I guess like sorry, survey and analytical talk aside. When it comes to like actual like writing and filling out a project, I'm curious. Like, so what's your favorite part? Like, what's your least favorite part? What do you kind of work through?
So as I kind of mentioned earlier, my favorite part, and this is even before I started writing D&D, like in school when I'd be like writing essays or whatever, I'd sit around for ages because I'm like quite a indecisive person. Like if you give me a choice between 2 different T-shirts, I'll like sit there for like an hour and be like, oh shit, which do I pick? So like in school, you'd be given like a list of titles and be like, oh, write a thing about this. I'm like, shit, what do I write about? But once I pick one and once I get an idea and once I get going, it just writes itself, and that's like the best part. Like I could literally I could go for like weeks where I'm just not doing anything, but like it's chugging away in the back of my mind, like, oh, what do I do? And then once I get it, I'll like have the entire first draft written in like a week, which is great. But then on the flip side of that, which is my least favorite part, is going back and like proofreading it and like editing it and doing layout and stuff. Because I mentioned like I got an editor for my most recent thing, but my first 3 things I just did by myself. Because I was like, oh, hiring an editor is going to be really expensive. But it isn't actually that bad.
No, it's yeah. I was going to say, so I don't know, again, I'm going to sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but anyone who's listened to this podcast long enough, they do know that my motto is hire an editor.
Always hire an editor,
So it just got, like, again, it feels like, I imagine, particularly with this product, your first experience, it does feel like a night and day difference like with an editor. I was going to say, if you don't mind, who are you working with?
Kathleen Harrington.
Ooh.
Big shout out to her. She's been
Yeah.
great. So
Editing away right this very minute.
well, she's finished the first draft, so I need to look over that. So that's what I'll be doing after this podcast.
No, exciting.
Podcast, YouTube thing, whatever.
I don't even know. It's like
but yeah, so the thing that I hate most or dislike most, hate is a strong word, is the proofreading, editing, and layout.
Mm-hmm.
But for my future products, I'm just going to outsource that. I'm going to get an editor and get a layout person.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be great. Then I'll just be able to do what I like doing.
Yeah, it's like that. I feel with your earlier products, it does feel like the moment you start like outsourcing stuff, it almost feels like a loss of control, almost.
Yeah.
But realistically, it's not quite like that. I think once you kind of like get over the initial kind of hurdle, it's like I'm not giving up. I'm just like I'm delegating.
I'm getting help.
Yeah, I'm getting help. It's there's so many fronts in which a product kind of gets better from having more people involved.
Exactly. Did you see the sorry.
No, that's right. We've been talking for like 45 minutes.
Oh, what? Really?
Time flies.
Oh god, time flies. But yeah, did you see the D&D for the D&D celebrations, the like talk about the DMsGuild?
Yes, with so it was Justice. It was
Lisa Primrose.
Yeah, and
I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Hannah and
yeah.
I'm kicking myself. There was another person.
Yes.
But yeah. So I think you tuned into that.
Well, I didn't actually. I found out it was on afterwards, but I went and watched it on YouTube. And one of the things that they said that was like, oh, that makes sense. Is they were like D&D is it's a collaborative game, and they were like, when you're writing adventures, it should also be, or when you're creating products for the DMsGuild, it's also a collaborative process. And they're like, yeah, you should really get an editor, get a layout person, and bring as much experience onto the team as you can, and it'll really help improve the product, and like you'll learn from them and stuff.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's like, again, it being a collaborative experience. With each time you kind of work with more people, you're kind of like you're building like I guess a group of trusted people. It's a case of like you learn from the people you work with, and then in the future products, you kind of know that in a pinch, if you need someone, that's kind of who you can go for. Forgive me, I am now scrolling through Twitter because I refuse to let people not get their rightful acknowledgement. But no, yeah, and like I said, that's what I kind of love. The D&D celebration thing was really good at kind of like bringing in attention to. Yes, okay, sorry. So it wasn't Hannah. It was Ashley Warren and Celeste Conwich. Yes. And yeah, there we go. We got there in the end. I feel redeemed in my own. But no,
don't worry, Matt. You redeemed yourself.
There you go. That's all that matters. As long as I have your approval, that's what I'm striving here for. Well then, okay, cool. Then I guess to like bring it around, then is there like I wonder if you've already answered this, but is there a kind of lesson that you kind of wish you'd learned earlier?
Other than the always hire an editor.
Other than that might be a bit of a cop out, but
and for earlier Liam, I wish I had told him hire a layout person, because that was a bit of a pain at the start.
I'm curious. So in terms of layout, what have you been using?
I've been the first two adventures I did, like Murder in the Prime Water Pleasure and Hop Near. I used the free one that was on the DMsGuild. It's like a free DMsGuild creator adventure layout thing, and it's not the best, but it was definitely a good starting place. I know some people are like, oh, it doesn't help at all, it's very confusing, but it was definitely very good. And the fact that it was free, I was like, oh, I might as well just pick this up. And then once I got a bit of credit on the old account, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have a look, try and find something better. And I saw Laura Hisbrunner. I don't know how to pronounce your name, Laura, I'm sorry, but her layout thing is really good.
Yeah, for Microsoft Word, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially because I've been using Microsoft Word already, I was like, I might as well just pick this up and give it a go. And it makes everything look so much more professional. And it was great.
Yeah, no, I said I can't imagine the amount of work that would go into creating a template that is easy to use. I think it's like you can see a template and think, okay, it's but to make a template that is just easy to use and is like allows for so many more people to kind of just get involved with the just because like I think people get disheartened when their first product does look like, I don't know, like white pages literally straight out of like Google Drive or but no, and yeah, I can only sort of I tip my hat to Laura and Co for the sort of the layout work that kind of
it's a really good product for any new DMsGuild creators out there. You should check it out.
Or alternatively, hire a layout artist. You don't have to
Or
worry about anything.
hire a layout artist.
It's literally like the problems are gone. It's like I think you eventually get to a point where you just like hand everything out. Like once you have an editor and a layout artist, you may as well get like maybe an artist involved.
Yeah.
And then you know what? There's a lot of writing. You might maybe get like a team of writers involved.
So you just come up with the idea and it's just like go do it.
Yeah. And then also you can't just hand it off to a team. You should probably get like a project manager, and then
you should get a creative consultant.
A creative consultant, maybe a lawyer, an accountant. And next thing you know, you're writing Wizards of the Coast with your company. So, no, I am joking, but I'm 90% sure that's how some like RPG writing companies just start. It's a case of like you just slowly, bit by bit, just start delegating out. No, awesome. And so I guess looking to the future then. So you've got a product that is probably out now. Do you want to I don't know if you want to sneak peek the title.
Sure. It is called. I'm not 100% on the title yet, but I think it's going to be The Madman Behind the Pews.
Ooh, exciting. And is this another Ghost of Saltmarsh?
It is not a Ghost of Saltmarsh, but it could very easily fit in with Ghost of Saltmarsh.
A sort of like setting agnostic.
It's like it's set on the coast, and there's like a small little town involved that you could be like, yeah, this is north of Saltmarsh, and you could very easily fit it in. But it's another horror adventure that I want to have out. I think I'm going to have it out 1st of October, depending how quickly I read through the edited version. Just in time for
how much crying involved is going.
But yeah, just in time for spooky season.
Nice, perfect.
So that should be fun.
Exciting. And then, so I think it is the plan after this one to loop back to our first conversation. Is the plan to have like a little bit rest out after this one, or is are you already churning on the next idea?
So I've just been kind of. I think I finished. So actually, the way that I actually wrote the adventures, it was Murder on the Prime Murder Pleasure first, then Hopnear, and then I wrote the one Madman Behind the Pews before I wrote Thornton's Tome of Adventures, but I couldn't publish it because it was for like a competition, so I had to wait for it to get judged and stuff. But in the meantime, I wrote the Tome of Adventure, and that one I really went all out, and I the way in like Xanathar's Guide and stuff, it's got like little notes from Xanathar and stuff. Yeah. I added those in from like Thornton, and it was a lot of work, not gonna lie. And I was when I finished it, I was like, "Whew, time to take a break."
Yeah.
So I'd say I will take a bit of a break for a while. I do have some ideas. As I said, I DM'd Curse of Strahd like 3 or 4 times.
With it revamped is right around the corner.
I know. Yeah, I can't wait to pick it up. But I really loved the module. And I kind of want to fit something in, but I can't decide what exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to try come up with something for that. But then another thing I want to do, I have this idea for like a kind of like Phandalin, to like make my own town, kind of like that.
Yeah.
It would be like a low-level town where the party can start off and use it their base. And I might like fit that into Curse of Strahd.
Okay.
and add like, I don't know if people here know Curse of Strahd, but there's like 3 main towns. So to add like a 4th one would be kind of pretty cool. But other than that, I don't really have any major ideas in the works at the moment.
Do you, so I guess like to latch onto that one, like, do you have like a particular like a dream project, something that you always want to do, but you know is like off in the distance?
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, there's 2 things that I think would be very, very cool,
Ooh.
but I don't know how practical they are. One, I love Gravity Falls. I don't know if you've seen it.
I'm familiar. I haven't seen it. I'm familiar with the show though.
I think it would just be such a good D&D setting. Like, it's just all about these fantastical monsters and locations, and I'm just like, how has this not been done yet? So if Alex Hirsch wants to give me rights to like make it, I would be more than happy to do that. But yeah, I don't know how realistic that is, to be honest.
I think here's the thing though. I think with some of these things, sometimes it's a case of just shoot. Like, was it shoot your shot?
Yeah.
Just I don't know. Just slide in the DMs and just like, listen, this is what I bring to the table, and just you never know.
Yeah, please let me write this thing for you.
Yeah.
But
you mentioned that was sorry. No.
Yeah. I'll get to the second one in a second. But he in Gravity Falls, there's an episode called Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons.
Yeah.
And it's, your classic like TV show take on D&D.
Yeah.
And he said like the whole thing of Gravity Falls is so like it's so much like a D&D adventure thing. Mm-hmm. But he said that he learned he looked up D&D to write that episode.
All right.
This is like halfway into like season 3, I think.
I don't know what it is about like most sitcoms or like TV shows or cartoons, but 9 times out of 10, like if they go on for long enough, they will have like a D&D episode.
Yeah,
it's just like
it's inevitable.
It's just a cliche in itself. Yeah, no, you've been for long enough. Yeah, one character is going to get really into role playing, and then
that's how I first learned about D&D was watching Big Bang Theory.
Really?
And they had their D&D episode, and I was like, I need to play this.
So yeah, I have a similar story like that where I actually got into playing World of Warcraft based on the South Park World of Warcraft episode.
Ooh.
which I they don't exactly paint the most like, but I don't know what it was about like young me who saw that episode. I was like, yeah, I want half some of that, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, media, it's powerful.
Yeah.
I think you muted yourself for a second.
Oh
no, there you go. You're back. Sorry,
okay.
it was my end.
All right. But yeah, so the second idea. So I'm Irish. And I think you see all these stuff for like The Witcher is all like Polish mythology.
Mm-hmm.
And Irish mythology is actually really cool. And there's like nothing out there about Irish mythology. Like if they were to make a Netflix series of it, I'd say it would do like amazingly well.
Yeah.
And just to like take that and make it into like a D&D setting. I don't know how you'd do it. I don't know if you'd like make a monster manual with like monsters from Irish mythology.
So I actually know that there's some similar stuff like this already called, do you know the Old World series? So there was Artifacts of the Old World, Heroes and Villains of the Old World, and I think there might be a third one. But basically these are products that are literally like, they take mythology from all over the world. And I think the only reason I know about it is because I was writing and I was writing these sort of like some of the English heritage, which results to a lot of like Arthurian stories and Robin Hood. But I think that they did have like a small sort of like a section, or they did, sorry, not a small section, but they had a section based on like Irish myth. So I think that, and there's definitely a place for it and stuff like that. Yeah. I think with the DM's Guild, it's a little bit weird because obviously they don't let you create stuff that's based on like real figures. Like you have to kind of walk a line or like balance it a little bit. But no, I 100%. I think you could do like a lot of really cool stuff with just the myth and legends of like wherever you're from.
Yeah, but that would definitely be like a big project.
Is there one particular legend or like that stands out?
There's this one Irish hero called Kukulen, and he's a bit of a legend in both senses of the word. But he's he's like a demigod, I think. And depending on what lore you read, he's got like 7 eyes or 7 arms or something. But he's just a really cool hero. And he goes on these cool adventures, and he's got like this spear called the Guy Bulga, which is like a god killing spear.
He's like the Irish version of like Kratos.
Yeah, or Hercules or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Wow. And he's just he's from one of the timelines, and to kill him, it takes an entire army. And they like get one of his like best friends to stab him in the back. And then when he's dying, he like lashes himself to this pole, and he like fights for like a day. And then once they think he's dead, they don't go and touch him until like a crow comes and lands on his head. Till they know that he's dead. But he just seems like a cool hero to write about.
Yeah, that sounds metal as fuck.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess sorry, I'm trying to compose myself. I'm trying to looking to the future still then, and the community as a whole rather than the future. Is there anyone in the DMsGuild community that kind of like inspires you or like stands out that you want
to? Yeah, there's a few people. Just everybody is just so great. They're all so welcoming and just so kind. And it's really a great community. But as I said, I kind of wanted to take a little break from writing, but I still wanted to try and progress my skills as a writer. So what I started doing was like, reviewing stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what's the best way to learn? Reading through other people's stuff. Yeah. And then if I'm going to do it, it's only like an extra small bit of work to like actually review it. Mm-hmm. So one of the reviewers, Cursa Sebs, he's a great guy.
Yes, Sebs is like a standout like cheerleader of the DMsGuild. Like you can see them always sort of like retweeting just about everything on the DM. They are so lovely.
They're great. They're just I feel like if you have any kind of problem, you could like talk to them and they'd be really, really helpful. Other than that, I don't think I've been in it enough to kind of know anybody really stand out. Laura was a great help. I emailed her about just some stuff, and she was the one who actually invited me to the DMsGuild Discord.
Oh.
Kathleen Harrington. Yeah. I'm sure we've got a bright future ahead of us. And then actually there's another guy we're writing on I don't know if you've heard of the Marvelous Ultimate. It's like we're writing a book where there's like loads of different subclasses, all based off like heroes and villains from.
Oh, awesome!
I don't know if I was allowed to say that. I'm pretty sure I am.
Like that. I think was it. Like that was it. I'll give you an opportunity to double check. But in case, like I said, either people have heard about it and it's fine, or no one has heard it. Like this part was cut.
Yeah, great.
You're covered either way.
The advantages of not recording live.
It's fine. Really cool concept.
Yeah. So we're writing this like it's a book, and it's going to have all these different archetypes. And I'm very excited. I wrote Aquaman for it, and I also wrote Green Lantern for it.
Ooh,
but they're not Aquaman and Green Lantern.
Yeah.
They're the Green Flame and the Warrior of the Sea.
Yeah.
So we don't get copyrighted. And I'm not sure if he's the project manager, but or just the one. I'm pretty sure he's the one. He's the boss man anyway. His name is Darren Kenny. He's from Ireland too. He's a very, very sound guy. So shout out to you, Darren.
No, fantastic. No, it's I like that question because again, it kind of re-emphasizes the fact that this is like a really, really nice community that there's a lot of cheerleaders or just generally swell folk. Well, I guess as well. So we already kind of know. So by the time that people are like listening to this, your newest product is touch wood out and available. But if people want to like catch like updates and find out, what's going on in the world of Liam, where would be the best place for them to sort of find out?
Yeah. So as I said, I started on Reddit. That's where I started advertising my stuff, and I'll probably always advertise my stuff there. So my Reddit, I'll give it to you. It's like Sherlock Holmes, but it's like spelt weird. It's like Sherlock Holmes. You can find it down below or whatever. And I'll post stuff there, but that's kind of not great to follow people on, I don't think. I'm
not sure how many people are like, you can just follow me on Reddit.
Yeah. Is it a rare one to get someone telling you that?
I don't know. It's like that. It's not the most natural conversation.
Yeah. But probably a better place to follow me then is Twitter. I recently got Twitter, and that's
I'm sorry. Good. I'm sorry that you've now joined Twitter.
Yeah, I've heard about how like toxic it can be sometimes. So
I think it all kind of depends on like who you're following, and again, if you're following nothing but DMsGuild authors and stuff like that, I think you're pretty right. You're pretty good. You're in a good crowd.
Yeah, I can only really go on it just to advertise my stuff, but also there are some really sound people on there too, so I chat to them. But yeah, generally so far it hasn't been that bad. But yeah, Reddit, and Twitter is probably the easiest way to follow me.
Nice. Well, fantastic. So yeah, obviously there'll be links and whatnot in the description below and all that. I must admit, I think that's pretty much where we're at time. So I've been Matthew Whitby. You can find me at Twitter at Whitby Writes. I do also have a Reddit account, and my Reddit name is like the randomly generated ones. And it's like, polite. Like I said, so for branding wise, it's not very good, but I like it because it's like polite juggernaut, which like in terms of that's a good name.
That's not a bad name. No. It's like on Xbox Live when you get those really random names.
So like I said, I would happily maybe rebrand myself as the polite juggernaut. I just don't think I have the physique for it.
You just got to go to the gym, some reps.
But maybe that's why I'm so polite. That's I'm choosing to be polite by not working out and being an imposing, threatening figure.
Maybe it's juggernaut is in the metaphorical sense.
Yeah, like a mental juggernaut, a literary juggernaut. I don't know. I think I'm losing you.
You should know this. We're writers.
So you can find me on Reddit. But my very last question then, how do you end a podcast?
I don't know.
This is how I get it. Like I said, I put it on the list of questions. It's the last one there.
You did put it on the list of questions, and that made me I was like, "Is this a podcast? Yeah. Am I meant to come up with a way? I don't know. Do shots or something?"
Wow. Like I said, I think it would be more worrying if I did have like a bottle of drink to hand. So I'm gonna take a sip of this.
I'm gonna take a sip.
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead. We'll have a sip. So again, thank you so much for joining, and stay hydrated.
Cheers.